downstairs. All right. Hey, this is Tuesday, January 5th, my regular class, and we're going to get into Fable-y things. Lily, you got your camera turned off just in time when that random goblin went running through your room. Nicely done on that one. And so as we get into this, we are done with last semester and now moving into new semester and our learning, which we'll cover some things here with you guys in a second. One, if at the end of class, if you guys do not know where any of your period 3, 5, or 7 classes are, let me know at the end of class. I'm more than happy to help you out. Because I had a number of kids who have changed classes, like from art to business or business to wellness, or something like that. If you don't know where you're supposed to go, let me know and I will look it up for you. Your first semester grades are done, so you should be good to go, which also means we are now wiping out all of that. All of your first semester stuff is gone. All of your missing assignments, gone. We get to start all over. Go for it, Finley. You're all are back to an A+ in my class because I'm giving everyone a 1-point grade, a 1 out of 1 called smile grade. As long as you smile at me, I'm going to give you a 1 out of 1. That way, until nicely done. Look at you. There's no extra credit. You don't have to get creepy with your smiles. You're only getting the 1 point on that one. You're not going to be like, double down. And the idea is if I give all of you a 1 out of 1, then you're going to start my class with an A+. Then it's up to you to lose the A+, as opposed to like starting with anything else. So this is my genius thing I came up with this morning. I was like, you know what? Because I told kids we're going to reset you all back to A+. And like, I have a 0 out of 0. And I'm like, that's a good point. So we're going to make it a 1 out of 1. So after school today, I'm going to give you guys all a grade, and you're going to be good to go, called your smile grade. So go, you guys, on that one. By the way, my other bit of bad news is I do not have any grades this week. I know that makes you guys really sad. And you're like, Mr. BroviCast, but I want to do work. And I know, I feel the same way. I planned on doing a quiz Thursday, but we're not going to. We're not going to get through everything I want to get to, so we'll end up doing the quiz next week. And I know it brings you sadness. To make up for it, I'm going to try and do 2 quizzes next week to make things a little bit better. But one of the quizzes, you get to cheat off of other kids. And so we'll end up talking about that one. So it sort of makes up for it a little bit. One quiz, you don't. You have to like use your own brain. But then the other one, I'm going to let you sort of cheat off other people. We'll sort of see how things go. Although given how things have gone previously, even cheating off other kids might not help some of you guys, which we'll also get to making fun of you here again in a moment. All right. And we're also done with Shadow Club. That's behind us. I enjoyed it. It was fun. But we're now moving on to new things. And here's the new things we're moving to. One, we're getting into Fables. If you don't know what Fables are, we're going to talk about them today. They're really short stories, like a paragraph long, where they deal with animals and you learn a thing, and they should be fairly entertaining. And then we're going to get
short
into
stories,
like short stories, but even shorter.
You mean like the 5th Harry Potter book?
Yeah, if that's your idea of short, then yes, like the 5th Harry Potter book.
Yes. Okay.
And they also have animals in them and stuff like that. We're also going to get to Greek mythology, which will be starting in about a week or so. For those of you who just rolled your eyes, that's because you've not had me teach Greek mythology. You're used to some other teacher teaching Greek mythology. And much like everything I do, it's better when I do it. And so it'll be the same thing with Greek mythology. Essentially, Greek mythology is going to be me telling you stories about people killing each other, because that's a lot of what the Greek mythology thing is. So hopefully that makes things slightly more entertaining. Plus, and here's the bad news, we're supposed to be doing speeches because that's what we move into in January. But we can't do speeches if we're on Zoom, so it doesn't really work out. And so I apologize. I know you're really upset on that one, but we're just gonna have to roll with it for now. The good news is at some point, I'm thinking you guys are gonna be back here in person. And that's when we get to begin doing the speeches. I don't think it's gonna be in January, even though I know they have like the school board voting next week. I do not think you guys are gonna be coming back yet, because nothing's any better. I think they're going to bring back elementary school kids, but you're going to have to deal with me going crazy on Zoom for a bit longer. But that day we have you come back, I get to start having you guys do speechy things, and you're going to be standing up in front of the classroom. Now, before you freak out too much and you're like, I hate speeches, they're so awful. Well, yes, that is true. Speeches are awful. I feel the same way. When I was a kid, I'm going to tell you guys, eventually when we get to speeches, I'll tell you a story about me giving a speech and the fact that I cried in front of my entire class when I gave a speech. And I was in ninth grade in high school when I broke into tears in front of my class because I hated giving speeches so much. But the good news is I do speeches much like I do everything else in my class, which means it's not awful. The speeches you guys give are not usually boring speeches. I have you guys do much more fun and entertaining speeches. Like you'll do speeches about horrible choices you have made in life and stuff like that. And so you get to give a speech. Anyway, we'll get to that in the future. So that's future things, just to get an idea of what's coming up. Anyway, moving on. You're going to need paper so we can take notes, or a device to do your note taking on. So we're going to get to that. And then your writing utensil. Hopefully your writing utensil that is not covered in staples, unless you just hate yourself, and then more power to you. For those of you who just don't like your own hands. But once again, doing my best not to judge on that one. To recover this, English grades have locked, so your class is reset to 0. We did that one. Technically, this class is reset to a 1 out of 1. And for you guys, your Shadow Club books, they are yours to keep. You don't have to give them back to me. If you want to, I will buy the book back from you for 5 B points or a piece of candy if you'd rather have like a blow pop or something like that. But just don't lose it between now and whenever you guys come back. Excuse me. I love the movie Dead Poet Society. And yes, I would like to be your captain also along those same lines. Except, wait, is it because he dies? Is that why he reminds you? And you're like, Mr. Broviak, the teacher in that movie Dead Poet Society died just like you. And so I thought maybe you're like trying to low-key threaten me or something like that. All right, but no.
So he doesn't die in that movie.
Does he not die? I thought he died at the end of the movie. Was that just a kid that died in the movie?
No, it's one of the kids, yeah.
Never mind. Then yeah,
you guys should watch that movie. You guys should watch that movie, Dead Poets Society. It's a really good movie.
It is. It is. It's got a bunch of actors that you guys know today when they were like younger too, and so it's all cool. Anyway, back to your Shadow Club. Whenever we come back, I'll buy the books from you. Aw, he's alive. I mean, finally. Hang on. Let me bring Jeriel in. Yay!
Eat salad. Wait, you mean biscuit?
As long as he shows up, there you go. Then Jeriel.
Are we recording this class?
Yep. Need proof of life, by the way. Then Shadow Club Rising. If you like Shadow Club, again, I put the sequel up on. Where are you? Oh, there you are. You're good to go now. Mark you down as here. And on camera. I'm leaving the sequel up. If you want to read it, it'll be on Canvas, and you're more than welcome to. For those of you who don't hate reading. And all right, I think we're good. Let's begin our learning for today. Here's how our Fable notes are going to work, however you're wanting to write them down to make your life easier. I'm doing what's called a T-chart. A T-chart where it's going to have the main headings on the left and then all the other information on the right. It's not going to be a whole lot of notes because usually my notes are more me telling stories and then having you guys write down the main things that go along with it. Today, it's the same thing. I'm going to be telling you guys a whole bunch of stories and then just having you guys write down some information that goes along with it. So hopefully my stories will help things sink into your head. All right. So here's what we're going to get into with fables. You guys already know what fables are. You've been learning about fables for freaking forever. Fables are the really short stories that deal with animals where you have to learn something from them. Whether it was like the dog that has a bone in his mouth and like barks at himself and loses the bone, or the crow that drops little stones into a glass of water, or the best known one is about a turtle and a rabbit that race each other through woods, would be an example of a fable. But we'll come back to that here in a moment. There are 3 types of fables we're going to get into. The first type of fable is called a traditional fable. This is like 90% of all the fables that exist. Almost every fable that you guys know of is a traditional fable. And traditional fable means old-timey stuff. It's taking place in the woods or like an old town. You don't have cell phones. There's no such things as cars. Imagine like it's back during like, I don't know, caveman days or shortly after caveman days. Mr. Broviak, like your childhood? Yes, like my childhood. So imagine that kind of thing as far. You're going to have animals in it, and the animals can talk and stuff like that and communicate with each other. All right, let me give you guys a speedy, well, all right, for me, try to be speedy. I'm not good at speedy things because I tend to ramble. I'm going to give you guys an example of one. Ooh, not bad, not bad. You're actually only one letter off of your spelling of medieval. There's no A in it. Other than that, you're good to go. So here is my example of the tortoise and the hare. I figure it's one that you
There's
guys
an
should
A.
be familiar with. All right. Oh, hang on. Let me get a drink of water real quick. I'm talking all day. I've not had to talk all day.
There is an A in medieval.
Oh, you're right. Medieval. So it should be Medieval. I apologize. You are correct.
I used to be in the Colorado State Spelling Bee.
Yeah, go you. I used to play Dungeons and Dragons, so that's how I knew how to spell it. So, same thing. So, my first fable. One day in the woods, there was a rabbit walking through the woods, and he stumbled upon, D&D's the bomb, stumbled across a whole bunch of animals hanging out in the middle of them. A turtle, a gopher, a woodchuck, an owl, and some others. And he hears them talking about how each one of them is pretty fast if they were to race against each other. And the rabbit goes, whatever, you guys aren't fast. I'm what fast is. If you guys want to race me, I'll show you who could actually win. Ooh, nice reference to gopher. And so all the other animals go, no, we're not going to race you because you're all trash talking us, except for the turtle. And the turtle goes, no, I'll race you. And the rabbit goes, no, I meant like one of the real animals, not you. He's like, a rock could beat you. And the turtle's like, oh, snap. Is that how it's going to be? Well, how about you and I race, and we'll see who gets to the edge of the woods first. And the rabbit's like, fine, you can do that. So he and the turtle decide to go for a race. They look at the owl, and they go, owl, will you be our judge? And the owl's like, who? They go, will you be our judge? And the owl, see, owl humor. And the owl goes, yes, that's fine. And the owl swoops, don't you shake your head. That was some good humor right there. I felt strong. And the owl swoops down and digs his little claw in the dirt. And goes, when I yell go, you take off, and whoever gets to the edge of the woods first wins. I'm like, okay. And the owl lifts its little wings and goes, hoot! And they take off running as fast as they can. The turtle is like, turtle, is running as fast as little turtle can, like rocks are passing him, but he's doing the best that he can. He's like, I'm just turtling. And the rabbit takes off so fast, dust like explodes behind him. And the other animal's like, cough, 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 cough. And the rabbit is so fast, he gets halfway across the woods in like the blink of an eye, and then turns around and sees the turtle still running. Turtly. He's like, oh my God, that guy's ridiculous. So he decides to taunt the turtle. He goes, you know what? This is what you get for trying to pick a fight with me. So the rabbit decides to insult the turtle by laying down and taking a nap in the middle of the road. And then he'll wake up and finish the race and still beat the turtle. So he curls up into an adorable little bunny ball and then just starts snoring. The turtle just keeps on running, doing his turtle thing. Turtly. And because he doesn't move real fast, when he passes the rabbit, he's quiet as a ninja. And he's like, turtle. And he just keeps on going. He gets all the way to the edge of the woods. And the other animals start going nuts. Like, oh my God, turtle's gonna win. Hurrah! This is crazy. And the animals are yelling so much, it wakes up the rabbit. And the rabbit looks around. He's like, oh my God, the turtle's going to beat me. And the rabbit takes off running. He's like, rabbit. And gets all the way to the end and then dives and sticks out his ears and tries to cross the finish line first. But the turtle was already stepping over. And he looks down at the rabbit and goes, ha, that's what you get, rabbit. Instead of being all sassy and fast, slow and steady won the race. And that becomes the moral that we're supposed to learn. Slow and steady wins the race. Unlike the moral, which should have been, don't sleep in the middle of a race, or don't taunt turtles, or any number of other things. For some reason, the moral of that story is slow and steady wins the race.
Mr. Brovik,
Whatever. Yes.
I'm pretty sure the turtle was a girl.
Sure. A girdle. That works for me. Kill all turtles. That's what you call a female turtle. They're called
There also
girdles.
a different story kind of like that where the turtle and his wife they're supposed to go through a hole and they're both on different sides of the hole to confuse the rabbit.
Interesting. Absolutely could be. There's a whole bunch of these old fables that have different versions of them. I could definitely see that. So that is our example of a traditional fable. Takes place out in the woods, has animals as our main characters, stuff like that. Then here's our second type of fable called a verse fable. Verse. Not verses like with the short stories when we had the external conflict, you had verses, man versus man and stuff like that. This is just verse, not verses, not a fight. Not officially chat challenge, but chat question. Do you guys know what a verse is? Ooh, it is like a Bible verse. You are correct. But what is a Bible verse? For those of you who know music, you should be familiar with a verse also, if that helps. Ooh, a saying, not bad. Or I like that one too. Technically, like a line in a poem. Closer.
I win.
And so a lot of times, the easiest way to put, for those of you who have sung or in band or choir, gotcha, a chapter, a part of a chapter. Yeah. A verse is usually like a part of a song, like a paragraph in a song, like the lyrics that you're singing would be an example of a verse. Here's your next chat challenge type question. Yes. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is not this kind of verse. That connects to the universe. Which you're not the first kid to mention that same thing today. Like Spider-Verse? I wish. It'd be the best kind of verse. And so the Fable Verse is not nearly as exciting as that. But for a verse fable, it's going to be like, here's your question. What do you call a song that has no music? A song that has, if your hint is, we studied it earlier this year. Ooh, no, that's close. That's instrumental, which would be a song without any words. But if you have a song that has no, there you go, Henry. Nicely done. It's called a poem. A poem is a song without music. Essentially, you took any song and you just looked at the lyrics, technically that's a poem because it's got your little rhyme that goes throughout it. It's the same thing as a poem on that one. And so that's what a verse fable is going to be. A verse fable is just a fable written out as a poem. It can be sung, it can be rapped, it can be anything along those lines. Yeah, you could add a tune to a poem, absolutely. I mean, a lot of times people take poem. If you, we did Annabelle Lee about the creepy guy and the death and stuff like that. If you go onto iTunes and type in, or even YouTube and type in Annabelle Lee, you'll find a whole bunch of people who turn it into songs. There's a whole bunch of Annabelle Lee songs that exist out there. So a verse fable is going to be, yes, Finley, you're entertaining me also. A verse fable is going to be a fable written out as a poem. So let me give you an example. Let me give you our tortoise and the hare, but as a poem. The only problem is I don't have this one written out in front of me. So you're just going to have to deal with my really bad rhyming skills, and it might hurt your brains. So I apologize now for any brain damage that comes from this. All right, let's go with, give me a second. Okay. One day in their forest, there was a sassy bunny who looked at all the other animals and said, "I'm so fast, it's not even funny. I challenge any of you to take me in a race, but there's no way you can keep up with my incredibly fast pace." Hang on. And then the turtle stepped up and said yes.
We get the points.
I'm not done yet. And said, "I will take you on because I don't think you're the best." The race started and the rabbit took a nap. And he said, there's no, wait, no, hang on. Took a nap. If we put this to music, it'd be a killer rap. We'll work that one into the middle just because I needed to find a good rhyme. The turtle passed him and got to the finish line, turned around, pointed at the rabbit and said, "Booyah, this race is mine." And then said, "Slow and steady wins the race." Man, I feel really good about that one. That's oh, that was embarrassing. Is what's important though is that would be an example of the first fable. There was a level of rhyming that no PJ, that was not fire. That should be set on fire. There is a difference between the two. You were confused, but I appreciate the compliment. I do not need to drop an album. I need to drop my rapping skills. I could be an iCloud rapper, but anybody could be an iCloud rapper. You could just bang rocks together and be an iCloud rapper. I could sell ones of songs, so that's still pretty good. Anyway, so that gives you an idea of our verse fable. Apparently you guys were excited. I'll try to bring back more verse fables as we go through our pit. No, y'all hate yourselves. I hate myself, Mr. Broviak. You should definitely do more spontaneous. Maybe I'll write one out that works a little better. And then that's not really a poem. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Anyway, our last of our three types is going to be what's called modern fable. So this is our last one. So you have traditional old-timey stuff, verse, written as a poem, which I'm afraid you guys will never forget now after my torturing of you, and then a modern fable, which, all right, I had to look up a scientific term for this one. So here's my scientific term to help you out. A modern fable uses today-y stuff. I think that's a scientific term. So it's going to use today-y stuff, like cell phones and cars and Twitter and TikTok and stuff like that.
I approve.
So you still have to use animals and you still have to teach a moral. It's just that it's going to be taking place during normal times. Mr. Broviak, do you have an example of a modern fable? Why, yes, I do. I'm not going to try to put it to a poem because that would be really rough. But I will at least try to come up with one for you. All right, let's see what we have. Ready? All right, modern fable. We'll stick with our tortoise and the hare, so we can have three different versions of it. All right. So now instead of taking place in the forest, it's going to go with, all right, one day
New York City.
At Forest Junior High, the turtle was walking down the school hallway who was on the chess team because he liked to take his slow and steady time and do things methodically and correct. And he was looking down as he walked through the hallway and bumped into somebody who was not paying any attention. All of a sudden, the rabbit turned around who was wearing his track letter jacket. And the rabbit goes, "What's up with you, dude? Back off, yo." That's my Gen Z talk. It feels like I nailed it. And the turtle goes, "What are you talking about? My tortoise is not a girl. It's not a girdle. Mine's a myrtle, which is a man turtle, a myrtle." And so the myrtle goes, "Hey, you can't just be standing in the hallway. I'm walking here." And the rabbit goes, "Listen, you got to respect me. I'm an athlete and we're the best people in this school." And the myrtle goes, "Whatever." He's like, "If you're the best person in the school, then I challenge you to a race." And the rabbit goes, "You can't challenge me to a race. You're a turtle." And he goes, "Oh, you're scared." He goes, "Oh, game on. Meet me after school at the track and we will race out there to see who's the best." And the myrtle, my male turtle, ooh, nice moaning myrtle reference. Go Zachary on that one. And so on this, I changed it a little bit because it's a different fable. And the turtle goes, "Whoever loses, the other person gets to take a picture of them and post it to Instagram and make fun of them." And he goes, "Hey, that's online bullying." He goes, "No, it's not, because we're only going to do it one time, and it takes more than once to be bullying. I'm just going to be an online jerk when I smoke you." He's like, "Oh!" And all of the kids in the hallway are like, "Oh!" And they start yelling at him. And all of the giraffes like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh." And they go, "All right." So they go outside, and at 3:00, they go outside, and they go, "All right, let's get ready." They meet at the side of the track, and they bring out again that one, the owl who's on the academic team, because owls are smart. And so the owl goes, all right, one lap around, and whoever gets back here to the finish line wins. And you get to taunt the other person with a picture. There's no armadillo in it. And so he goes, all right. And so the owl raises his arms and goes, hoot. And they both take off running as fast as they can. And again, the myrtle is like, myrtle, 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 is myrtling along as fast as his little myrtle feet can take him. And the rabbit takes off and gets halfway around the course when all of a sudden he sees the squirrel cheerleaders off to the side. He's like, Arr! He's like, how you doing? And he goes over and starts talking to all the squirrel cheerleaders. And they don't have pom-poms. They're using their tails. And they're like, squirrel, 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 squirrely, squirrel, 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 squirrely, squirrel, 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 squirrel. And he's like, oh, and like he's flirting with all the squirrel cheerleaders. And the turtle just keeps on turtling. Turtly, turtle. Don't you give me that look. Squirrel cheerleaders are a thing. He keeps just turtling along, turtle, turtle. And all of a sudden, while the rabbit's sitting there flirting with all the squirrel cheerleaders, like, hey, I think you're going to lose this race. He's like, I can't lose this race. Do you see that chump? They're like, well, that chump is at the finish line. And the rabbit turns around and is like, oh, snap, and takes off running as fast as he can. And he's like, oh, no, you don't. And he dives across the finish line and puts out his little ears and slides across, and dust goes flying everywhere. And all of a sudden he realizes it's an armadillo. He's like, what? How did armadillo win? You weren't even in this race. And all of a sudden the armadillo rips off his costume and it's a turtle. And they're like, oh, see, I don't know. You put the armadillo in there. And then all of a sudden the turtle takes a picture of him and posts it all there and says, you know what? Slow and steady wins the race, and armadillos are the bomb. And he posts that on there, and they all start laughing, and that's the end of our story. And that's our modern retelling, and apparently an armadillo, which is like a turtle with more armor. Jeriel, what's up?
Wouldn't it be a tortoise? Because aren't turtles normally on sea and not land? So wouldn't it be a tortoise?
It can be. Tortoises can only go on land. Turtles can go on both land and water. They sort of go back and forth on that one. So it should have been tortoise, but tortoise is too many syllables. Turtle works better. Now I was just saying, how many of you guys tried to count out tortoise? Tortoise. I was just just saying, how many of you guys tried to count the syllable, and they're like, yeah, that's just me making fun of you. That was a fun game. So now, what is wrong with you? All right, hang on 1 second as we get to our next thing. So now that we have our 3 different examples, let me introduce to you why fables exist in the first place. Yes. And please. And thank you. All right, that's there. All right. So the reason that fables exist in the first place goes back thousands of years, is how long they've been around. So what we're going to get to is, it turns out we did not always have school. There was a time before school. Mr. Broviak, I thought school was invented with cavemen. It was not. There was a time prior to school. That would have been the best. They have been playing video games all the time.
I want a time machine.
Yeah, unfortunately, here's the problem with that one, is the fact that before we had school, we had this thing called stupidity. And the thing is, they invented school to try to get rid of stupidity. But Mr. Broviak, we have school today and we still have stupidity. Yeah, I'm aware of that one. There's only so much we can do. But at one time, there was even more stupidity. So what they did was they started coming up with this thing called fables to try and help people out. Fables, their whole point of a fable is to teach a moral. If you don't know what a moral is a thing that you learn. It's a lesson learned in a story. It's an advice, observation on human nature, any number of different things, like, you should always study for your test, or, don't stick your finger in a bee's nest, or don't anger your teacher right before a test, or whatever your particular moral or thing you're going to learn may be. So now let's go back in time. Let's use our time machine. So back before we had school and we had dumb children. Here's what used to happen with all these dumb children. They would run around in these villages getting themselves hurt and killed doing dumb kid things. There used to be this original kid game called Headsy Roxy. And here's how kids would play Headsy Roxy. You would get a group of friends and you would each pick up a really heavy rock, and then you would take turns hitting each other in the head. Whack! And whichever kid died first lost. And it was a really popular game. And so you had to worry about Headsy Roxys. So,
Mr.
one
Brovic,
day-
I think Ellie actually thinks that that was a real thing. I'm pretty sure it's not.
I mean, you never know, it could be.
Look at Ellie. Bruh.
So there, I have to, and so you can stop yelling. Yeah, there we go. And so we have Headsy Roxys, which absolutely was a real thing. Who's not played a rousing game of Headsy Roxys? And so apparently you've just lost out. So one day when Fables were first created, here is my retelling of the first Fable. I was there because I was a young child also. And so you had a group of kids who were getting ready to play Headsy Roxys, and they all had their rocks out, and they were getting ready to smack each other in the heads. When an old man happened to be walking by in the village, and this old guy goes, "Kids, what are you getting ready to do?" And the kids go, "We're going to play Headsy Roxy, boomer, back off." And he goes, "Well, how do you play Headsy Roxys?" They're like, "Well, you take a rock and you smack it into your friend's head until one of us dies, and then that person is the loser." And the old man goes, you shouldn't play that game." And the kids go, "You know who says that? Boomers, back off." And so the old man goes, "Well, what if I told you not to play this game?" They go, "Hey, old man, we're teenagers. We're not going to listen to you." He goes, "Oh, man, that's a good point." He goes, and then the old man had an idea. He goes, "Children, have you ever heard a story?" And the kids are like, "A story? I'm intrigued. Who's in this story?" And the old man goes, "Well, it's a story about me and my cousin." And the kids go, "Boring." He goes, "No, I'm kidding. It was about a squirrel and a rhinoceros." And the kids go, "Ooh, I'm intrigued. A squirrel and a rhinoceros." And the old man goes, "Yes. Would you like to hear the story about the squirrel and the rhinoceros?" And the kid's like, "Yeah, I would like to hear a story about a squirrel and a rhinoceros. That sounds exciting." And they get all excited. I goes, "All right, well, have a seat." And the kids put their rocks down. They sit on top of their rocks. They use them as chairs. He goes, "All right, here's how it goes. One day in this little village called Animal Town, there was a squirrel who was best friends with a rhinoceros. And the rhinoceros and the squirrel decided to play a game called Roxy Headsy." And the kids are like, "Is this like Headsy Roxy?" And the old man's like, "No, it's a completely different game." And the kid's like, "Okay." And he goes, "Here's how you play Roxy Headsies." And the squirrel goes, "I'm going to take a rock and I'm going to hit my friend in the head with it. And then he's going to hit me in the head with it. And we're going to see who gets hurt first." And the kids go, "Yeah, that's a completely different game." And the old man goes, "Oh my God, you kids are stupid." And they go, "Yes, we are." He goes, "All right." He goes, "So one day the squirrel picks up the rock and he goes over to the rhinoceros and he hits the rhinoceros in the head as hard as he can with a rock. And the rock just bounces off in the rhinoceros's head. And the rhinoceros is like, "Well, that was a fun game. Let me play." And the squirrel goes, "Okay, your turn." And the rhinoceros picks up his rock and he goes over to the squirrel and he goes, "Splat!" And the squirrel goes, "Flap!" and becomes flattened. And the rhinoceros picks up his rock and goes, "Squirrel, did I win?" And the squirrel goes, "Nothing, because the squirrel is dead." And that's how we learn you should not hit your friends in the head with rocks because you're going to kill them. And the kid's like, "Oh my God, that's a great story. I don't want to be a squirrel." The kid's like, "I don't want to be a squirrel either." And they all walked away and they stopped playing Headsy Roxy. And the old man goes, "This is genius. We're going to have to start doing more of these stories to start teaching kids." And that's actually how Fable started. Maybe not with the Roxy Headsy part. That part I don't remember exactly. But essentially, Fable started as old people telling kids stories to try and teach them how not to be dumb, which is why fables have to have a moral. If a fable doesn't have a moral, it's not teaching kids anything. And if it's not teaching kids anything, then it's just a weird, creepy old man telling you a story. Like when I hang out with my grandpa? Yeah, like when you hang out with your grandpa. He's not creepy. That's fine, whatever. So you have to make sure that they teach you a lesson. So a fable is going to be a thing that teaches us a lesson. Ooh, let's help you out. Ready? That is why we have teachers today. I sort of teach the same way, where I tell you guys stories. You just learn things from my stories about, see, now many of you are like, Mr. Broviak, I was going to go hit my friend in the head with a rock, but now I don't want to play Roxy Headsies. And I'm like, you're welcome. All right. You are a special child. So there's 5 characteristics that we've learned over the years are the best way to teach kids how not to be big dum-dums. So here are the 5 things that go into a fable to prevent kids from being big dum-dums. Yes, Antoinette, that is absolutely fine with me. So number 1 is going to be the most important thing that every fable has to have, a moral. If it doesn't have a moral, then you're not teaching anything. So it has to have a moral in order to teach all of these things. So number 1, fables have to have a moral of some kind. That was the main thing they learned. So every time we do fables, you are teaching somebody something of some level. Number 2, it's a little different than Bloody Knuckles, but you're on the right track. Roxy Headsies, I've never seen it spelled out like that, but that makes me smile. The second most important one is we realized if we want kids to pay attention to these fables and learn from them, then we cannot have old people as the characters. Kids don't care about old people. If you want kids to pay attention to a story, you have to put fuzzy animals in there. You have to have animals as your main characters. Because as soon as you go, come here, kids, let me tell you a story about Grandpa Frank and his cousin Herbert. And you're like, done. Who cares about Frank and Herbert? If you go, let me tell you a story about Frank the possum and Herbert the shark, you're like, all right, well, now I'm intrigued. Let's find out about this Herbert the shark kind of guy. And, well, look at that. Maybe your uncle is a possum also, and that works along the same lines. And so make sure animals are your main characters if you want kids to pay attention. 3, unlike my teaching, fables should be short. If you babble and go on too long, kids stop paying attention. Kids have natural ADHD. So as soon as you go, hey, let me tell you a story about why you shouldn't play Roxy Headsies, and the kids go, okay, you're like, all right. And the kid, you go, all right, sit down. Do you have an hour? Let me tell you this hours. And the kid's like, I'm already bored. And so you have to make sure you get right to it. So fables are short. Fables should be about a paragraph to like 8 paragraphs at the longest. If you go much longer than like 8 paragraphs, kids stop paying attention. Mr. Broviak, I stopped paying attention after 1 paragraph. Yes, I'm aware. That's why we have to have some dum-dums in the world. Mr. Broviak, did you just call me a dum-dum? No, I would never call you a dum-dum. That would be awful. And then 4, if you want to have kids pay attention to it, you should make sure that they are humorous and funny in some way. If they're not humorous and funny, kids tune out. I'm not even sure how to respond to that one either. And so like the tone overall, now they don't have to be like knock knock joke funny. It's just avoid depressing them. You're not going to have kids learn if you get into the story and they're like crying. All right. As an example, here's what not to do for your fable. One day there was a raccoon, and the raccoon got news from his doctor that he had tail cancer, and the tail cancer was slowly eating up his body, and he was not going to live long. And you're like, what? No, does the raccoon live through the tail cancer? You're like, no, tail cancer is fatal. And the kid's like, no! And so that's what you want to avoid. So don't try to depress the kid. Now, given half of you started laughing, you're like, tail cancer? That's hilarious. Who doesn't love tail cancer? Because that you're what people call a horrible person, because you find tail cancer hilarious. But the rest of us, we know that tail cancer is a very serious thing. So we're going to try to are you trying to get rid of your tail cancer? Tail cancer. It's the worst thing. So anyway, you're going to try and make sure they're humorous and funny to make kids are more likely to learn if they're smiling. By the way, this is also why it's been scientifically proven why kids can't learn math, because math is never funny. So that's why you just can't learn it, because you're never smiling the whole time. And then you're like, am I going to ever use this? Yes. Is that a joke? And that's the only time like you ever learn anything in math class. Mr. Broviak, did you just rip on math teachers? I did, because they're fun to rip on. And my last one, number 5. I like dark humor too, like tail cancer. Number 5 is, what age should fables be aimed at? Well, through scientific research, they've discovered at what age people stop becoming dumb. And that age is never. You're never too old to be an idiot. So because of that, fables have to be aimed at people of all ages. There might be a 70-year-old out there being like, I'm going to go play Roxy Headsy. You're like, you're 70. And he's like, I got to get started sometime. You're like, oh my God, old person. And yeah, that's fine. Go for it, Owen. I have no problem with that. And so by the way, if you're like, Mr. Broviak, there's no way old people are dumb. Go on YouTube and type in old people being stupid. Be like, oh my God, there's so many of them. They're all over the place. Or you can go into YouTube and type in the phrase, hey, Billy, watch me do this, and just find out what happens. You're going to find like hillbilly YouTube. Be like, oh my God, oh, those people are so old and dumb at the same time. Yeah, it's downright kind of frightening. We are going to be leaving early, but not this early yet. I have a couple things to get through first. Jerry L, what's your question, Jerry L?
Since you and Queen Elizabeth are immortal, who's older?
That's a good. I mean, Queen Elizabeth's been around for like freaking ever, so I have no idea. I think Queen Elizabeth wrote the first Fables. She was like one of those random ones that was around. I have no idea. All right. So now, yes, you go. I already answered that question like 4 times. You can go potty. I don't want you to pop. It'd be weird. Except for him. All right. So now I have 3 things left to do. One is this thing. Video check. So I can make sure that you guys are alive. And then I'll show you guys number 2, which we'll get to, which involves me torturing children. Oh, toots. And then to there, hang on. And I have 4 of you. I'm getting ready to boot out. Not Owen. 3 of you, 2 of you, 1 of you. Hang on. And don't take it. Never mind. She's alive. All right, you're all good. You're alive. You're alive. Here is the next thing we're going to do. I don't even know what that means. All right, which is I am going to do what's called an oral quiz. If you wrote down notes, you get to use them. So I'm going to call your name and ask you a random question over the stuff that we just covered to try and help you out. Ready? Good. Me too. Let's find out. Oh, hang on. Let's go to here. Let's do this for a moment so that you can unmute yourself when I call on you. All right. And to there. And to there. PJ, thanks for volunteering to go first. That's very brave of you, PJ. PJ, what type of fable has been around ever since I was a child, and some kids could argue I was the creator of, because we've been around the same amount of time?
Traditional.
Is correct. Go you. Max, let's pick on you next and go with, Max, if you and I were to get into a rap battle, what type of fable would we use in our rap battle?
A verse.
Is correct. Go you again. Henry, that's nice of you to volunteer for the next one, Henry. Henry, which of our 3 types of fables uses cell phones and Twitter, and we could post on TikTok?
Armadillo.
That is an answer. We're going to go with, it starts with an M and rhymes with ottern. Starts with an M and rhymes with ottern.
Modern.
Modern.
Hey, nicely done, Henry. Zach, you've
Wait,
been
I
so
knew
patient.
that. Why didn't I say? I knew that.
I knew you knew that. That's why I called on you. I knew you knew that. Zach, you seem to be really wanting to yell at me. What's up, Zachary?
I wanted you to ask me a question.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get there. You just gotta have patience.
I can
Zachary.
unmute now.
Water.
Yeah, for a moment until I start muting you guys again.
Please. How about you don't?
Here, let's go with
No, you.
Finley. Finley, let's go with. In order to educate children and make them not dum-dums, what is it every fable has to have to make them not dum-dums?
A moral.
Is correct. Good job, Finley. Zachary, let's go to you, Zachary. Let's go with, we got into the 5 things that fables have to have. What is the most important thing that fables have to have, Zachary? If they don't have it, it does not exist as a fable.
Isn't it a moral? Wait, is it a moral too?
Are you asking me? I'm old. You have to tell me. Gen Z.
Moral.
Is correct. Good job. It is a moral. Go you. Lily, thanks for volunteering to go next. Let's go with Lily. If I want kids to pay attention to my fable, what kind of characters should I put into my fable to make sure they pay attention?
Animals.
Minecraft characters.
Technically, a lot of Minecraft characters are animals. You're on the right track on that one. There and then Antoinette.
And maybe some crewmates and an imposter.
I want kids to pay attention all the way to the end of my fable. How long should my fable be?
Short.
Yeah, only a couple paragraphs. It should not be very long, or we're definitely going to have issues that go into it from there. Mina, let's pick on you next. Mina, what kind of tone or mood should we have in our fable to make sure that kids are enjoying them?
Funny or humorous.
Works for me.
Humorous.
Funny if humorous works for me, makes me paying attention. Not dark, except for you guys with your tail cancer. And then Lathe, my last one. What age should we aim our fables at to make sure that we catch all the dumb people?
All the ages?
Are you asking me? Channel your inner Zachary.
All the fables?
He's telling you, let's just get on with it.
I mean, all the ages.
You got it, Lathe. Nicely done. That was the confidence I was looking for. Go you. Here's the last thing I have. We're going to take just 2 lines of notes I have to finish out. We're going to get to a point, and then we'll stop and let you guys go. So here's the all right. Here's a small chat challenge, not a full chat challenge, but a small one. So with fables, there is a guy who is known as the father of fables, who is the most famous of all the fable tellers out there. Almost every book that is about fables has his name on it. What is this guy's name who is connected to fables? Yeah, I'll even say I have a book with his name on it right here. I'm going to show you in a second. Ooh, not Shel Silverstein, but a good guess. Shel Silverstein does have a bunch of, but not fables. He does poems. Not God. That's a slightly different
Dr.
person.
Seuss.
And not Dr. Seuss. All right, so let's go with and
Aesop.
you guys do know a lot of old famous people. I will give you that one. Nicely done.
Jacob.
Owen, nicely done, Owen. Aesop is
I
the
said it
correct answer.
too, even though I
I was
googled
the
it.
first one to say it. I just spelled it wrong.
Is that spin?
I
Oh,
I
I see.
googled it.
The
I was the
Aesop.
first to say it.
Aesop.
Actually, I googled it, bruh.
There you go.
I didn't have actual knowledge. So yeah.
So yes, this guy named Aesop, I have another book by him also, with the rabbit and the hare on the front of it. This guy named Aesop is known as the father of fable. So I'm going to give you guys a short little question. I'm going to give you a long thing about him, but I'm going to give you, we're only going to do a little bit today. We'll finish up the rest of you guys on Thursday. Nicely done, Max. There is a guy by the name of Aesop Rocky, who is a rapper. And Aesop Rocky, who is a really good rapper, by the way, took his name from Aesop, the guy who used to tell stories, because as a rapper, Aesop Rocky do the same thing. He tells stories when he raps, which is why he makes his name connect the two of them. So that's exactly why that one pops up. Go you. So anyway, so Aesop, by the way, if you tell, oh, hang on. You guys did a good job reminding me on this one. To make sure I go back to muting all of you so you can't unmute yourselves because you guys like to yell at me. Yeah, sad face. By the way, a person who tells fables, their official name is a fabulous. If you tell stories, you are a fabulous, which by the way, is why I tell fables. So that way you guys have to refer to me as Mr. Broviak, you're fabulous. And I'm like, I know I am. Thank you. I feel fabulous. So anyway, this Aesop guy, He died just a few years ago. I remember his death making big news when I was a kid. He lived from 620 to 560 BC or BCE, before Common Era or before Christ, or whichever one you want to go with. So 620 to 560 BC. He grew up in this place called Africa, which he was there. We don't know where exactly in Africa. We just know that he was somewhere in Africa. Back then, their countries were sort of a little bit different. We don't know exactly where. And he was nothing like remarkable as a child. He grew up there all the way through being a teenager. The only thing that was special about him as a kid was that he loved listening to the old people tell stories in town, like their version of school. He just thought those stories were fascinating. So every time the people in town would tell stories, he would always be one that was sitting there listening. Then one day, when he was a teenager, a whole bunch of white guys invaded his village and killed off everybody that was there that fought back. Now, these people were not from America, because this was way before America existed. They were from a country called Greece. And these Greeks came in and they ended up killing most of his village. Everyone that was left alive, they gave two choices to. They go, all right, those of you who are not dead, you have two options. Option one, you become a slave and we take you back to Greece. Option two, we kill you. And people are like, what was the first option again? They're like, becoming a slave in Greece. Like, we're going to take that option. And so Aesop agrees to become a slave and go back to Greece. So he leaves Africa as a teenager and ends up going to Greece to grow up there. By the way, he was not an African American because he never came to America. So he can't be an African American. He was called an African, just African. I mean, technically he was like an African Greekan eventually, but he was there. With the Greeks, by the way, their slavery was different than America's slavery. America's slavery was all about racism and hatred. Greeks' slavery was not. Theirs had nothing to do with what race you were. They didn't care if you were white, black, Hispanic, Asian. Their thing was anytime that they beat another country in a war, they gave all the people who were left alive the option of either being killed or coming back as a slave. And they're like, we don't care what race you are, we don't care what color you are, we can either kill you or you can be a slave. And so there were a lot of slaves in Greece. But the other thing that Greece did was you weren't a slave forever. You were only a slave until you proved that you were a good member of society. Almost every slave in Greece eventually became a member of society because you just have to prove that you wanted to be a member and become like a good person, and then you were good to go. And that's what Aesop sets out to do. He decides that he wants to be a good member of society and earn his freedom. How does he go about doing that? That's not till Thursday. Yes, good job, Jerry. You made me smile. But that's all I have for you guys for today. I just wanted to get you guys started on Aesop, and then we're going to finish our Aesop, and we won't take our quiz until Monday of next week. We'll get to the quiz Monday of next week, so we have a wee bit of time on that one. Hang on, let me stop sharing here. I'm done with that one? No, all right. Making sure before I forget, if you don't know where you're going for period 3, 5, or 7 tomorrow, let me know, and I can look it up for you real quick and let you know. As long as you know where you're going, then that's fine with me, and you're good to go. I have nothing else for you except for me just randomly babbling and making fun of kids, which brings me happiness. But other than that, make sure you don't lose your notes because you're going to need them. We're coming up for quiz. And then on Thursday, we're going to start reading actual fables and talking and discussing things. And we're also going to talk about hillbillies on Thursday. And we're also going to talk about some animals on Thursday. And also murdering teachers also pops up on Thursday. So we have a lot of fun things we get. Why did you applaud murdering teachers? No, that should have been like a straight up boo thing, not a yay thing. That tells me a lot about you guys. I was hoping I was going to say murdering teachers. You're like, what? No, Mr. Broviak, not that story. But you guys are like murdering teachers, tail cancer. You guys like rocking out to your bad selves. Ugh, this is what I get for not making fun of kids for 2 weeks. All right, I'm done with you. Enjoy. Go take off and do things in the world. And I'll see you guys on Thursday.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Same. Thank you.
Bye.
And